The midsize truck segment is getting quite competitive. Nissan has finally refreshed their Frontier, which was like half a decade overdue. Ford has the Ranger, Jeep came out with the Gladiator, Toyota somehow keeps continuing on with the same Tacoma, and Chevy has finally done a full refresh of their Colorado. We're talking all new exterior, interior, new technology, new powertrain, new chassis, and new trim levels. Today we are getting to drive several different trim levels of the new Colorado, both on-road and off-road. This one here is a Trail Boss. We'll be hopping in a Z71 later on. We've driven the LT, and there is also a work truck. And we're going to talk about everything from that new powertrain, a 2.7 liter turbocharged four-cylinder, to how it feels, the interior, the exterior, everything. The midsize truck segment is actually really intriguing to me because they're still a somewhat reasonable size. These full-size trucks, Silverado, F-150, the Ram, they're absolutely gigantic and they're getting very, very expensive. Whereas the midsize segment still offers a lot of competitiveness, usefulness, usability for a reasonable size and price. With that, we're gonna hop in the truck. We've got some more driving on-road, we're gonna experience it off-road, and also we'll definitely walk around the exterior, show you some of those details, talk about the powertrain, and give you a full tour of the interior. So we start our drive of the new Colorado off-road, and let's start with talking about one of the highlights, the new powertrain lineup. Although lineup might not be an appropriate term to describe it because they have vastly simplified the engines available for the new Colorado. The outgoing generation came with 3 different powertrains. You could have a 2.5 liter four-cylinder, a 3.6 liter V6, or a 2.8 liter Duramax diesel. Whereas the new generation is just one engine, a 2.7 liter turbocharged four-cylinder, available in 3 different power outputs. So we have the base turbo, which makes 237 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. And then you go up to the Turbo Plus, which makes 310 horsepower and 390 pound-feet of torque. And the very top of the lineup is the high output, which makes the same 310 horsepower, but 430 pound-feet of torque. And all of those numbers serve as significant upgrades in power and torque compared to the outgoing powertrain lineups, which means they not only simplified it, but added more capability and performance. The Trail Boss we are driving right now has the mid-tier, the Turbo Plus. The interesting thing is, upgrading from a Turbo Plus to the high output that's standard in the ZR2 is simply a calibration flash. Mechanically, they are the same, so you can make that extra torque. If you later on decide that you want more power, you can just go to your dealership and add that on. And also interesting, different engines, including the higher tier ones, are available in whatever trim you want. So you can get a work truck, the base one, and you can option up to the more powerful turbo and then turbo high output if you want, which means you could have a 2-wheel drive entry-level work truck with the highest output engine paired with the stronger transmission. There are 2 different 8-speed transmissions available. So the whole powertrain lineup is definitely very interesting. We are not driving the ZR2 this drive, but that is the most capable top tier one. And that leads us into talking about the different chassis. There's 3 different iterations for the new Colorado, and they're all new. You have the base one, which is work truck, LT, and Z71 come on the regular. And then if you go to the Trail Boss, you get the ultra wide stance, more aggressive. It's 3-inch wider track up front with a 2-inch factory suspension lift. And at the very, very top, we have the ZR2, which gets a 3-inch factory suspension lift along with the ultra wide stance and Multimatic DSSV dampers. Again, that's the most capable one, but that's how you get the 3 different iterations. It's all brand new, and the wheelbase, I believe, is 3.1 inches longer than the outgoing one. So we're getting a quick experience of the Colorado off-road in the Trail Boss. The Trail Boss has some capability, but it's the more budget-friendly approach, right? Not a full-out ZR2, which costs quite a bit more, but it's got that capability, that 2-inch lift, 4-wheel drive, different drive modes too. We got tech in terms of camera views. The new Colorado has a segment first exclusive underbody camera available too, and it's like something like 10 different camera angles available. So all this tech definitely makes the off-roading stuff much more approachable and easier. I mentioned overall size at the beginning of the video, and that's actually very advantageous when we're doing things like this because, I mean, a Raptor is awesome, a full-size Silverado ZR2 is awesome, but they are absolutely enormous, and on some of these smaller trails, they just feel too big. It'd be really careful maneuvering them. You don't want to, like, scratch them up too much or whatever, whereas a mid-size truck is still somewhat reasonable size. They're relatively nimble, and when you have the capability of some of these models, it's just much more usable. So from that regard, Colorado definitely has appeal when off-roading. Oh boy, that's bouncy. You can just hear the turbo whistling away. That's actually one of the most pronounced things I've noticed with this vehicle. The exhaust note is nothing exemplary. It's actually that's a quite big 4-cylinder, but the turbo is very pronounced, and I thought that was interesting. You notice it on-road, definitely notice it off-road. You just hear it whistling away in the background. All right, we have swapped trucks into a Z71, which is actually technically a step down in terms of capability. The Trail Boss gets the 2-inch higher ride height along with the wider front track, whereas the Z71 shares with the work truck and the LT, but we still have 4-wheel drive, plenty of the tech, the different drive modes. We're in off-road mode right now. The Z71 does get a lot nicer in terms of the interior. So we've got leather steering wheel, this red stitching, the seats are now leather. A lot of like nice touches on this, make it a bit more of a premium interior. Much more on-road focused, obviously, but I'm sure we're still going to be able to get through all of these obstacles without a problem. We have the off-road drive page pulled up, which presents a lot of cool info. We've got the G-forces steering angle. We're currently in 4 high. If you go over to the terrain, it shows pitch and roll, tire pressures, overlanding actually has a compass, and your elevation looks like. So a lot of really, really nice graphics in this center infotainment screen, which is across all these trucks, quite a nice feature. Now, something I'm going to complain about, I'll show more on the interior walk around, is the digital instrument cluster, which is just a rectangle and a larger screen. I don't like that. That doesn't fill up the entire screen. It's just a rectangle in there and a bunch of empty space. Not a fan of that. I actually probably would have preferred regular analog dials, but it's a digital cluster that is across all these trucks. Also, for the first time, the Colorado has a sunroof. Available in certain trims, but we have a sunroof. That's important, right? Overall impression so far with the Colorado off-roading, it's capable enough. I mean, for the style of usage a lot of these owners will go through, I think this handles it well. Lifestyle, going camping, maybe some mild off-roading. Now, we haven't driven the ZR2, which is much more focused with those Multimatic DSSV dampers, but in terms of articulation, all the different tech features, the camera angles, the different drive modes, 4-wheel drive, it's handled what we've been going through pretty well. A lot of different options within the lineup with the different trims. You can go super basic work truck, and then into the Trail Boss, which is good on the more budget-oriented, capable off-road. The 8-speed largely stays out of your way. It's been fine so far. There are actually 2 different kinds of 8-speed transmissions. The base turbo motor has a lower torque-rated 8-speed automatic, and if you go up to the higher output ones, you get a stronger 8-speed automatic transmission. So when you do option it on a lower tier trim, it comes bundled with the transmission and the higher output engine. The engineers were also really highlighting the durability they had in mind for this powertrain. Now again, it's been in the Silverado for a bit, and it's proven to be pretty stout and reliable. They do stress the heck out of these things with all sorts of thermo shock and just running at high load, high speed on the engine dyno. They allegedly designed this like a diesel in mind, so right, just longevity, very strong internals, like 30% stronger crankshaft and like a forged bottom end, things like that, to be able to make this thing last as long as it needs to. So we'll see how that does in the wild in production Colorados. So in terrain mode, it is really using the brakes to slow me down. Just kind of, kind of balance with the gas, and that was actually pretty easy, straightforward. Obviously a lot of electronic help, but handled it fine. I think I saw 13 degrees of pitch at one point. Not bad for the Z71. We have a Trail Boss parked here and a Z71, so let's check out the exterior design of the all-new Colorado. So the Trail Boss sits on the mid-tier chassis. It has a 2-inch higher ride height and a 3-inch wider front track, so a bit more aggressive, a bit more capable, whereas the Z71 sits on the regular chassis, similar to the work truck and the LT, but this is a little more premium. You can tell by the front fascia having body color paint, and this is actual gloss black paint, versus on the Trail Boss, you have the satin black plastic front fascia. And also look at the lights. That's the base headlights, no fog lights there. Whereas on the Z71, we have the LED lights, you have a fog light there, Z71 badging, you do have red tow hooks down here. Both of these are nicely splattered with a coat of mud from the off-roading that has happened. But from the front end, you can definitely tell the Trail Boss has a bit more of that aggression. Coming around to the side, I'm a big fan of the fender flare design. They're much more angular compared to the outgoing generation of the Colorado. You can see the creases here, whereas on the previous gen, they're much more smoothed out, much more rounded. Another weird thing is, though, the Colorado badge looks like it's sitting really high up. Usually they have this badging like closer towards the middle to the bottom of the door, just a random little detail. You also note this has body color door handles on the Z71, whereas on the Trail Boss, they're just black plastic. Again, a more entry-level, more rugged off-road focus trim here in the Trail Boss. We have the stickers on the side of the bed for Z71 or Trail Boss. Integrated side steps there too. And then this is really cool. We have a multi-function tailgate back here. The first thing is, you flip these tabs out, and then in the tailgate itself, we have this hidden storage compartment, which is pretty awesome. It's about 4 inches deep. You can put tools, accessories, whatever you need back here. Or if you're at a party or tailgate or something, you could fill it with ice and your drinks because it does drain. You can close it up and then close these tabs here. And then on the side, you see this little channel groove thing. That's for putting the cable in, and allows you to have the tailgate suspended pretty much halfway up there, 500-pound load, and it means this is level with the top of the wheel wells there to extend the amount of space that you can put something into the back of the bed, whether it's some long sheets of plywood or something. So that's a really cool innovation. This bed has a lot of different features like that. We got plenty of tie-down points, and there's 2 little grooves cut in there at the front. That's for if you want to have a bicycle or a dirt bike strapped into the back of your pickup bed. So for a mid-size truck, a lot of different innovations to ensure maximum flexibility, maximum utility, and usability for the Colorado. And then you'll also see we have the Chevrolet lettering stamped into the tailgate itself, just like on the Silverado. That's a really nice touch too. So there's a quick exterior look of the all-new Colorado, comparing both the Trail Boss trim and a Z71. Let's take a tour of the interior of the new Chevy Colorado. This one here is the Z71 trim, so it has a lot of the nicer touches. We have this red stitching along the door here. The seats are leather, red inserts, red stitching. Got this little pattern etched in there too. Hop inside. There is a pretty awesome startup sequence across both the digital screens. Fades into the Chevrolet logo. That is absolutely a nice touch. Go ahead and start the truck. So we have a digital driver infotainment screen here. The center cluster. I don't like that it's just a rectangle. It doesn't fill that entire space. I believe for the ZR2 it will go full screen, but for this one, that's a cheap touch to me, where it's just a rectangle. I wish there was a better treatment of that to better utilize that space. Contrasted with this center infotainment screen, this 11.3-inch infotainment screen, this is phenomenal. It is very nice. The graphics are great. A lot of great information. We can pull up the camera views. You have overhead view, front, all sorts of different camera views. That is very, very nice. Even with like trailer hitch views too. All of that. That's the underbody view. Oh, cool. This one has it. This, I believe, would clean off the underbody camera, but either I'm doing it wrong or it's not working right now. But we have an underbody view, which is segment exclusive. And then check this out. Look at the different drive mode visuals, the graphics. We have off-road. Let's go to normal, actually. Normal, terrain, tow and haul, off-road, and back to normal. These are some gorgeous graphics on the center screen. So this center screen is fantastic. Don't love this screen, but we can change the view a little bit. If we hold this button here, we can go to different gauge faces. There's number 1. We can change it to gauge 2. There's different looks to it. We can pull up all sorts of different information. You can even pull up the off-road info onto the center screen. That is pretty awesome. Coming down the center stack, again, I love this infotainment screen. It is very nice. We have 2 rows of physical buttons for our climate control. As the Z71, we have dual zone climate control. The Trail Boss only had single zone and only had like 3 buttons here because we have heated and cooled seats. This also has a heated steering wheel. And then we have a couple more toggles for various other controls, USB ports, a very nice oversized wireless charging pad. So I have my phone charging right there. An actual physical shifter, which is definitely nice. It's been positioned here on the right. The rotary mode selector, that's what we turned around to change our drive modes. Also control for the 4-wheel drive system. You can go auto, 2 high, 4 low. Parking brake right there. Cup holders, which has another slot in the middle, which you could put your phone in like that. That's pretty nifty too. Some nice red stitching on the center console, and also a friction hinge, so you can stop it at any point and it doesn't slam shut. That's an interesting touch. It makes it nice, right? Not having it slam, but functionally, like, it's not like you can rest your arm on it at different points. So it just, yeah, I've spent enough time on the cover of that. We also have these big circular air vents on the outboard side. I think the Camaro had these first, and then they added them on the Chevy Blazer. So you can turn this inside open and close, and then the whole thing kind of rotates around. It's a cool touch. And also, we have a sunroof. I think it's the first time, and not many vehicles in the segment have this, I think, but there's a sunroof on the Colorado. That's pretty nifty. No digital rear view mirror. Again, more entry-level mid-size truck. This steering wheel does have some nice leather wrapping to it. And here we have the second row. We also have some nice red accents here, the red stitching. Let's check out legroom. So I have the driver's seat. Ow. Okay. I already have the driver's seat to where I sit. And all right. Okay. So the second row, headroom is quite good. We have this big like cutout here, but my legroom is abysmal. My knees are jammed into the seat, so that's not comfortable. At 6'3". Is this window open? That's nice. Sliding rear window here. We do have a USB-C and USB regular charging port there. More cup holders, and I'm getting out of the back of this thing. This is definitely a mid-sized truck. If you need the second row, get a Silverado. The back seats do fold up. There's a lever right there, and then you can lift the seats up for some more storage underneath here. It looks like the jack, a couple more things. You could hide some stuff down there for storage. And there's a quick tour of the interior of the all-new Chevrolet Colorado. All right, back on the road, so we're gonna wrap up some final thoughts on the refresh Colorado. Although refresh isn't fair. I mean, it's all new platform, exterior design, interior technology, powertrain. We just came down a pretty curvy canyon road in a Colorado Z71, and it did surprisingly well in terms of like body roll, not a ton of brake dive. It handled it well. No, it's not a sports sedan. It's not a sports car in any capacity, but given that this is just a mid-sized pickup truck that we were just off-roading, I was genuinely surprised at how well it handled itself. My point of pride is I did use the brakes enough and I drove it hard enough that it gave me a brake overheat warning. So that's my point of success for today in the Colorado. In terms of final thoughts on driving it, it's a pretty nice experience in here. The Z71 definitely brings a lot more of the creature comforts. We have heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel. There's plenty of tech and driver assistance features. The new infotainment screen is quite nice. And the powertrain, the 2.7 Turbo 4. It makes pretty good power. I believe this one is a Turbo Plus, so not flash at a high output version. It's not a very charismatic or exciting. I mean, it's a big 4-cylinder, so it does feel a little coarse to me. There's a little bit of turbo lag. The same size turbo is applied to everything from the base 2.7 all the way up to the high output. This new generation for the Colorado definitely makes it competitive in the segment, going up against things like the new Nissan Frontier, the Ford Ranger, Toyota Tacoma. Tacoma, especially the TRD Pro, always will have such a loyal following. So I think Chevy definitely needed to do some things to bring the latest tech, more aggressive styling design. I'm definitely excited to try out the ZR2 because that will have the Multimatic DSSV, much more capable. It definitely looks the most badass in the lineup. There's a blue one on display with all the accessories on it, and it looks looks pretty aggressive, so that will be interesting to experience. In terms of value, the Colorado is definitely competitive in the segment. The entry-level work truck starts at just under $30,000, but once you throw in destination and things like that, you're going to be around the $30,000 price point, which is comparable to some of the really entry-level mid-sized trucks. And for being an entry-level work truck, I won't say it has luxuries, but it has some pretty good standard tech features, available driver assistance features, so it's competitive from that regard. And then there's really a model and price point for a lot of different customers, whether you want some of the more value-oriented off-road capability with the Trail Boss, or a bit more of the luxury touches with this Z71, or eventually the top tier ZR2, which is going to approach 60 grand, but that's going to be very capable. I'm excited to check that out. That has the Multimatic DSSV dampers, the most amount of ride height, the most amount of capability, and it looks badass. They had a blue one on display with a bunch of accessories on it, and it definitely looks like it is plenty capable. So there's my thoughts on the new Colorado. It's been interesting to experience it on curvy canyon roads, also off-roading and getting to drive it around town. Don't love the 2.7. It's capable, it does its job. I do love some of the nice tech features. I hate the center cluster because it's just a rectangle, doesn't fill the entire space, and I think that's silly. I think it looks pretty good. Hope you guys enjoyed this first drive and review of the all-new Colorado across a couple different trims. Thanks for watching.